Okay, everyone. Well, President John Robinson here. I'm here with Tony Beck, who is also a part of our executive team with the CGA. He leads the enhancement branch. But we've got two special guests today. We've got Fred Roethlisberger. I'm going to make sure we hit senior first, and then John Roethlisberger as well. Thanks for joining our call today, guys, especially on Valentine's Day, because we're taking you away from your wives. Make sure you thank them as well for us. We're hopping on this call. NCAA men's gymnastics is special to all of us, but Fred and John got to live something even more special. They got to do it together, right? Father-son duo, dynamic duo, doing some great things. And, that impact on their lives, impact on the community around them, impact on the next generation. We want to make sure that we share that and make sure that we honor that, and then that story lives on forever. So we really want to make sure that we're honoring that. Tony Beck is going to kick things off with a question, just to kind of get things rolling for you guys to chat a little bit. Later, we're going to have one more guest join us, but they're not ready right now, so we're going to pull them in to kind of contribute to the conversation. But really, we're hoping to hear some stories about how special the opportunity was, the responsibility that comes with it, and how valuable that was between the two of you to be able to share it together. So, Tony.
Awesome. Yep. Thanks, John. So Fred and John, there haven't been many father-son duos in the entirety of NCAA men's gymnastics like what you guys have experienced, especially one that has culminated in the success that you both have had as a coach, as an athlete. What significance did NCAA gymnastics hold for each of you, and what did it mean to do it together?
Dad, you want to start?
I don't know. I think, the main thing is that you're having fun. I don't care. You got to compete and you want to be successful. And it's part of having fun. But, there's fun every day in the gym. And, that's a big part of it to me. So,
Yeah, I mean, I think too, I look back on my career and really that's the part I miss the most, Dad, is just being in the gym and, our little dirty corner of the world in Cook Hall that people would love to be able to see that where we all came from. But it's just being in there with the fellas and grinding and yeah, it was cool to do it with my dad. I think having, helping his teams to success in any way I could was fun to help him get, on a few Big Ten championship teams. And we're still pissed off about the 90 NCAAs, but whatever. It was good. My dad was being honest. He'd probably tell you that, yeah, he enjoyed it and had fun, but I also made it tough on him sometimes. Don't you think, Dad?
yeah, that's for sure. And John is the most stubborn person that you could ever imagine. I mean, he's terrible. And then his temper. I mean, he's got a temper.
Where'd I get that?
I don't know.
I was a little stubborn, but Fred was equally as stubborn. And yes, I did have a little bit of a temper, but hopefully Fred would agree that it didn't come out of not wanting something. It came out of wanting it a little excessively, probably. I wanted it bad. And I think my dad wanted it bad. And he put two people in there that wanted it bad every single time, no matter, if we won 3 Big Tens, it had to be 4. If we won US championships, we had to do it twice. If we, it was just, dealing with me when I didn't get something or didn't make it the way I wanted to. But I think you put two stubborn, driven people together. I think we both want to win pretty bad. I think that'd be fair, wouldn't you say, Dad?
Yeah, that'd be fair.
Oh, that's awesome. That's so good. Do you guys have any stories about any of those moments or any of them that stand out for you? That's like, man, that right there, that was special for me to share with my dad or share with my son, John.
I'm curious. You got any stand out, Dad? Go ahead.
Well, one of my biggest memories is always the Big Ten meets that we could have won by one routine. I've got them all listed at, Chuck Marty and Dan Price, Dave Menke, that's 3. One more routine. In those 4 routines and 4 different teams would have made the difference. So I think about that. I remember, and then of course the '91 championship. That was a debacle. That was really a shame. But that's the way it is, and you move along.
I think that's the one thing my dad and I have in common is I never really sit back and enjoy the wins. Like I've never just been like, man, you remember when we won this meet but I'll be damned if I don't remember, 90 NCAAs, 91 NCAAs. We missed team finals by a 10th. I think we could have won it that year. Not my senior year, Brian Yee breaks his hand in training the week before NCAA championships. And, we had a good team that year and we were one horse or team away from, team finals that year. It's just like, you think about those, my senior year, we hosted Big Tens. It would have been 4 in a row. And, I missed 2 routines and I hadn't missed 2 routines in a meet for a long time before that, so I think my dad and I have that thing in common that, winning's great, but it's, I guess satisfaction would be great too on some level.
Yep, yep. Talk a little more about that dirty old corner that you talked about, that you guys call Cook Hall, right? So, what about that space? Can you guys remember the smell? Can you remember the atmosphere? You guys what was that like, right? Especially
Yeah, Dad, how about that gym? I mean, a lot of years in that gym, and that gym was not a elite looking training center. What'd you think of it, Dad?
Well, it wasn't an elite looking, but I tell you what, it was efficient. It had what we needed, and 90% of what we needed. We could have used 1 or 2 other pieces of equipment that didn't fit, but overall, it was enough to do what you wanted to do. So,
I
yeah,
think I think
there's a
for you,
little.
John, one thing that I've always noticed as growing up and watching you is the heart you had. And I think that's what you guys had at Cook Hall too, is your dad and you guys had a heart to want it that bad. And you pushed the guys next to you to rise to that level.
Yeah,
Yeah,
I think
yeah. As far as pushing other guys, is what kind of makes me think of one thing. There are some gymnasts who could be Olympians that don't want to be. I mean, that was so hard for me to believe, to deal with those people too, and just get, what they were capable of giving, and not asking them to be international gymnasts. So just fulfill their scholarship obligations, and I'd be happy with that, even though I couldn't understand.
Yeah, I was gonna say, Dad, that probably had to be because that was right. I know that story. You told me that story, and I've retold that story before to other people, just life lesson type of situation. But that was right pretty early in your coaching career. That was 80s, I believe. Tim Koopman, right? Or
Yeah.
if you want to name names,
Yeah, way to call him out.
but
And if you're watching,
but that was, you were only at Minnesota for 10. I mean, you're young and hungry and full of, you just wanted to run through a brick wall to get an Olympian and win nationals. And so how hard was that to swallow that pill at that point of your coaching career?
Yeah. I mean, Koeman, he could have walked on to the '84 team. He was that good.
I remember watching him as a kid.
No problem.
Yeah.
But
man,
he
well,
didn't.
then later on you had John here who wanted it more than anyone, and then he repeated it multiple times, right?
Yeah.
That's pretty special to have your son kind of live through that dream.
Yeah, there's that. And there's quite a few guys that were, right up there, like John. Every one of those national team members was somebody special. To me, it was a big deal to have them on the national team.
Right?
How many years in a row did you have somebody on the national team, Dad?
I don't know.
A lot.
It was like close to 30 years in a row you had someone on a
Pretty much.
national team.
Yeah, pretty much my whole career. Yeah,
Man, that's
30.
legendary.
Pardon?
That's legendary. That's amazing. It's not easy to do.
Out of that dirty
I'm
little
trying.
corner to cook all.
I don't know, gymnastics not a big sport, but it's
How
still a big
John, you
deal.
mentioned that you heard that story when you were younger about the athlete who I didn't say his name. See that? The athlete who didn't want to be an Olympian. You grew up watching your dad work with these athletes, and how did that inspire you? How did Fred inspire you, John?
Well, honestly, my dad never was really like, he never really, from what I remember, and who knows, maybe he'll disagree with me. He wasn't ever like, you could do this, you could be an Olympian, you can, you could be the best. It wasn't really conversations like that. It was more like, don't be a lazy POS. I remember one conversation distinctly, and I wasn't a big lover of gymnastics as a young kid. And Tony and John, you can probably agree with this. Gymnastics is hard it's hard forever, but when you're a little kid and the pommel comes up to your elbow when your hand's on the leather, and when the parallel bars can be turned all the way in and they're still too wide, and it's just not built. It's not made for a 7-year-old on some levels. Now they've worked with that a lot over the years and made it better in that regard. But I played soccer and I played baseball, and as a young gymnast, in 5th and 6th grade, guess what's a lot easier than gymnastics? Baseball and soccer. And I was instantly good at it because I was a gymnast. And I hope all the young boys, I hope there's boys and parents everywhere that hear that, because it's 100% true. If you can do gymnastics, you can do a lot of other stuff. And I kind of was lukewarm about gymnastics, and I didn't know what I want to do. And I remember my dad said, look, I don't care what you decide to do, but you are going to do something, and you're going to work at it, and you're going to work hard at it. And I remember, and he could correct me if he remembers, he even mentioned piano. He goes, you can play piano if you want. You can do that. You can do anything, but you have to do something. And I think that was really the biggest thing that you learn in the Roethlisberger family, and something I'm trying to teach my kids, is you will be tough and you will work hard. Those two things, you don't have a choice. You're going to do those, and you can apply that to gymnastics if you want, or soccer or piano, but you will do those things. And so I think, and then I saw, no offense, Dad, but he wasn't the dad that just showered you with like love and accolades all the time. It was kind of a tough love household. But then I don't know if he knows this, but I would see how he would talk about Tim LaFleur, and I would see how he would talk about my sister, my idol. She's a badass. And I'm like, I see how my dad really respects these people that do these things that he tells me about, every day. And so I think that is where my motivation came from. That's where it wasn't, hey, you can be an Olympian, son. You can be the national champion. Okay, I want to do that. I don't know if he ever said that. Like, it was more of, and he alluded to this, my dad was a process-oriented person. Pack your lunch. He'd come in and he'd give us a physics lesson, every morning at 7:30. He's like, objects in motion, stay in motion. Objects at rest, stay at rest. It was all about packing your lunch and, just embracing the process. Yeah, we had goals. Obviously we want to make an Olympic team. We wanted to win nationals, but we really didn't. And that wasn't the focus. So I think that's where my motivation came from, and that's where my appreciation of hard work came from. And yeah, so that was my motivation, was to be the hardest worker that ever stepped foot in that gym every single day. And was it totally conscious? Was I like, oh, he took an extra turn, I'm gonna? No, it was just work. Just work, and make sure when you leave, no one in here even thinks twice that somebody worked harder than you did. So, that was, and then out of it came what came of it.
Fred, did he do that? Did he go in there, and was he the hardest worker?
Yeah, I'd say he was. I'm trying to think of somebody else who, there's a lot of guys that were working hard, but I don't think any of them really exceeded John on any particular day. So
Hey, we're gonna put that down as a compliment. You got that, John?
I was worried there. I was thinking all these years I wanted to be the hardest worker, and I was worried he was going to throw somebody else out there and break my heart.
I did lay the stage there for you. Oh man. Well, you know what's interesting, guys, is Fred instilled things in you, John, and at the NCAA level, you got a responsibility, to lead the next generation, to be role models, and to kind of pave the way for the guys who come behind you, right? And as a childhood gymnast, when I was real young in the '96 Olympics, watching you compete, that's when you became my childhood hero. And Fred, you don't realize that, but what you instilled in John through watching him do his thing was instilled in me. And that inspired me to work hard, try to be the hardest worker in the gym, to pursue NCAA, pursue the farthest path I could go. And now it bleeds deep in me with NCAA men's gymnastics and my passion for it, right? And so whether you know it or not, Fred, today's the first time you ever met me, but what you did impacted John and then impacted me and impacted people across the country. So the profound effect that you had was amazing. So thank you for that.
Well, thanks for the compliment.
Absolutely.
Dad, do you remember after the '96 Olympics what you told me in the hotel when we were talking about my career and what I should do next? Talk about the future. Do you remember what you told me?
No.
You said you need to retire. You need to whatever, have a press conference, whatever it is, and you need to retire. I'll never forget that. And I do appreciate that more now as I watch my kids do sports, because being the dad of your athlete isn't always that easy, right? Like how was it hard at times to watch your kid go out there and compete and deal with that stress every week?
Well, I guess, my problem was that I thought that was the highlight of your career, and it was a good place to stop.
Probably was. Actually, the next 4 years were really hard.
That's when you tore your ACL after that, didn't you?
I did. I tore my ACL in '98, and that was probably the epitome of my stubbornness. Wouldn't you say, Dad? That '98 championships. I landed my vault.
You were primed for that when you were in such good shape.
Yeah.
You were really primed.
But I remember hurting it on vault, right?
Yeah.
Go ahead. Yeah, I remember hurting it on vault, and I didn't want to quit the meet. I wanted to try to finish, and that was stupid. That was pretty stupid, huh, Dad?
Yeah, well, it was my fault too.
Yeah, well, after 28 years of dealing with my stubbornness, you probably were like, whatever, just let him do whatever he wants.
Oh, that's awesome. That's good. I remember that. I remember that competition actually. So there's some perseverance in that career, and I'm sure, Fred, that you had a part in that too. That's the stubbornness there. So
Yeah. Well, he had a daughter that was real stubborn too. So the poor guy had to deal with two hard-headed, stubborn. It's called karma though, because I'm sure his parents had to deal with him, right, Dad?
No, actually, they didn't. They had very little to do with me. Came right down to it.
how about that family though?
I shouldn't say that. He taught me to work hard too, but as far as, being involved in my activities in that respect, he certainly wasn't at it one bit. So
How about that family though? The Roethlisberger name is pretty successful. Tell us a little bit about how that played out. I mean, I'm sure there's competitions on the daily, huh?
Yeah, give us the story of the Roethlisbergers in gymnastics, Dad. Goes back to your parents.
yeah, well, my dad was in the Turners. My dad and mom, they were both in the Turners American Gymnastics Society. So that was a German organization. We were Swiss, but we belonged to the Swiss Gymnastics Society as well. So that's where they were involved, and they took me in there. It was a lot of fun, and the fun just developed into where it went. I just followed it along.
When did you realize you wanted to be an Olympian, Dad?
I think in high school.
Who gave you the idea you could? Was it your parents or was it your coach?
I don't know where it came from, to be honest with you. I think just seeing it in the magazines and, looking at it and going, boy, I'd like to have my picture in that magazine. I mean, that'd be so cool.
What about you, John? When did you decide that you wanted to?
I don't know. That's a good question. I've been asked that before. I don't really remember a day. I know the time I made my first JO National was 84. I was 14 years old. I got 76th place. I remember Cheney Humphrey got second. Chris Waller got like fifth, and I was 76th. I remember Cheney Humphrey did a full in on floor, and I was like, and he's the exact same age as me. I'm like, holy cow. I did a full on floor and over rotated to my back. I'm like, wow, maybe I should have done a full in. Now, that's how I started. And I remember the 84 Olympic team, I think, visited that national championships that year. It was in Albuquerque, New Mexico. And I know at that point, weirdly enough, I know I wanted to and thought I believed that I could make an Olympic team, which is a little counterintuitive to how good I was at that point, because I wasn't good really at all. And I don't know if it was before that. My sister was a member of the 84 Olympic team, and watching her go through her journey, which was unbelievably hard. And she's the toughest SOB you'll ever meet. She puts me and my dad to shame and how tough she is. And I think that, motivated me a little bit. I feel like my sister, she had injuries back to back, 83, 84, and just battled through them in unbelievable fashion. And I feel like she got screwed by those injuries. I think if she had been healthy, she might be the name you think of when you think of the 84 Olympics. And I think for me, I'm like, I think there's a little part of me that wanted to right that wrong, as much as that was kind of weird. So it was right around that 83, 84. I just, as much as I was terrible at JO Nationals, that was a success for me to kind of motivate me to just see how far I could go, and there wasn't any pressure. People are like, is there pressure? Your dad did it, your sister did it. Not really, my dad, my sister were just people that lived in my house. And if they could do it, no offense, Dad, like if they could do it, shoot, I should be able to do this too, right? So I think it became more tangible, more real, more realistic. I think, and I don't know that I thought of that at the time, but there'd be a few pictures around. I'm like, oh, that's cool. Maybe, it's kind of like, I'm going to do that, and so it just kind of evolves, over time. And right around that age 14, it was just a matter of fact that I'm going to get my horse and kick my horse a little harder and see how far I can go.
Yeah, you look around in your room and you see those pictures, but I'm sure you saw your dad too and a great coach in your corner, and you're like, man, I've got the tools around me.
Yeah. Oh yeah, for sure. Yeah. No, I think we had a special situation at Minnesota, and Francis sent me a Nebraska posters every year. Francis Allen, the head coach at the time, and he's the only coach that sent me anything. And I remember Scott Johnson was my idol. I remember meeting Scott Johnson once, but I never thought about ever going anywhere else. I think A, my dad would have killed me. And B, I don't know. I grew up in Minnesota. I mean, I rode my skateboard down the hallway. I took the city bus in grade school from St. Louis Park through downtown Minneapolis and got off at campus and squeezed under the fence next to the Harvard barber shop that's no longer there, ran across the field up to Cook Hall, and I'd go play gymnastics. Day off of school, I'd go to the gym, go to the Cook Hall. And so, I knew that I was going to go to Minnesota, as much as the idea of at least going on one recruiting trip would have been fun. But yeah, we had a special situation there, and as again, our little corner of the world, I loved it. I love walking up those steps and going into that gym. And yes, I can still smell it, and I can feel the railing in my hand, and I can feel the buttons on the keypad to get in the locker room, which are the same today as they were 35 years ago. So yeah, it was fun to be a part of, and I knew that's where I was going to go, and I knew that I could do anything I wanted from there.
That's awesome. That's awesome. Well, we got one more person to bring into the call if you guys are good with that. Good breaking
Yeah.
point? Yeah. All right. I'm gonna let them in. Of course, it'd be Mike Burns, right?
Yeah. I thought either that or I thought it might be Francis Allen, but
No, I wasn't gonna put some salt in the wounds or anything.
you guys have, as Mike's coming on, you have a picture outside that damn gym and I'm in it. Have you seen it?
Where is it? I'm gonna have to take a look now.
When you walk in from the hallway,
Yeah.
I haven't been to your new gym, so it was in by the old gym. As you walk in the glass doors, there's a picture of like national championship teams and stuff, and there's that 1990 team, and it just gets a little bit of our podium, and I'm standing there, and I look like my dog just got hit by a car.
Oh
And I'm
no.
like, seriously, guys? Like you couldn't crop that photo down just a hair more? You got to go try to see if it's still there, find that thing. Because every time I go by, I'm like, damn you people.
Oh man. Yeah, we still haven't let it go either. We could have maybe
Yeah, I'm
thrown
sure.
a couple more titles with you around.
Yeah, right.
That's okay. You landed where you're supposed to be with your dad. So,
Yep, we had a good journey. We had a good run.
Bert,
Mike coming on, or what is he doing? Hey, Mike.
there it is. Speak of the devil.
Can you hear me?
Yeah.
Yes.
Oh, good. I was having all kinds of technical troubles and didn't have my tech support here. So,
Hey, Mike Burns. So for those watching now, this is Mike Burns, head coach of Minnesota, longtime coach for the Gophers. But you've got a good relationship with Fred and John here, and so we thought that you'd provide some valuable insight on one, their impact on the community, their impact on NCAA men's gymnastics and your program specifically, but also you got to see them interact, and so maybe you can provide some insight on their relationship and all of those things.
well, I started coaching 1980 at the University of Iowa, and that was when Fred was sort of in the beginning of his heyday, And I remember, John was probably about, I don't know, 10 around then, and we would come up for competitions at Williams Arena. And it was this little squirrely little kid just running around being a real pain in the neck. Find out later it's Fred's son, John. I'm going, okay, yeah, I see how that's going to be. Little did I know he would turn out to be, right? And then flash forward to, I think it was 1991 or 1990. I think it was my last year at Iowa.
90.
And we were at the Wisconsin Open. And Russ was there with you, Russ Bistrom. I think Fred was, I don't know, hunting? Maybe, I don't know. And so I remember there was a training session, like in between upholsteries or whatever, and you were working on a full twist and double back or something, and you landed on the side of the mat and you broke your foot. And I was just like,
Yeah.
Oh my God, I never seen Russ Bistrom go so pale. He's kind of pale anyway, but he went really pale because he had to call Fred and let him know what happened.
Yeah.
But I tell you, this is a story that really sticks in my memory the most about what a class act Fred is, and obviously the apple hasn't fallen far from the tree. But in 1986, I was coaching at Iowa still, and we happened to win the Big Ten title that year. We had a really good team, and the very first person that came over to congratulate me was Fred Roethlisberger. And I don't know if I ever told you that, Fred, but that was something that I'll never forget because you're pretty darn legendary. And when I was lucky enough to get up to Minnesota after you retired, somebody asked me, "Hey, how are you gonna fill Fred Roethlisberger's shoes?" I said, "Fill Fred Roethlisberger's shoes? Are you nuts? You don't fill a guy's shoes like that. You take them and you bronze them and you put them in the Hall of Fame, cabinet there." And again, Fred's had all those accolades, and here we are with you, John. Having a chance to induct you into the first class of the CGA Hall of Fame, and it's just a real honor and a real pleasure. Known you a long time since before I got here, but since I've been here since 2004, just developed a really strong relationship with you as a friend and a colleague, and it just means the world to me to see you in this first class because it was like a total no-brainer. We had the committee meetings and went back and forth, and we were back and forth on other people and not on you because it was just a slam dunk. He's just been nothing but a class act, and Fred, I hope you're as proud of your son as we are of him as being a colleague and a friend.
Well, Mike, you just broke the news.
Okay.
The
Really?
one message I gave Mike earlier today was make sure that we're tight-lipped until it's announced.
That's
Well, you know,
amazing.
fan stage, John. You expect me to remember that? Come on, give me a break.
Nope, nope.
Remember
don't know
what? I
I'm
don't know what he
saying.
said.
Hey, all right, so I'm gonna share with you real quick. So we have created the CGA Hall of Fame. This is our first year doing it, and it's acknowledging NCAA success, obviously. And so, John, we're really excited to announce that you're going to be inducted into our inaugural class for the CGA Hall of Fame. We do have a graphic. I'm going to share that graphic with you. But you know, your accolades speak for themselves. Your impact on the community speaks for itself. You know, Fred, we wanted you to be here to share that moment with John, because it is a special moment for us to honor all of you guys together and your impact on the world as we see it today in the gymnastics community. But John, this is your inductee graphic here with the Minnesota skyline that you grew up in behind you, and you representing Minnesota Golden Gophers. So
Nice. Well, I'm honored. Thank you. I wish my toe point was better, but you know, no, that's pretty cool. I appreciate that. And yeah, it was the best time of my life, man, being a Minnesota Gopher, nothing better.
yeah, well, you're in other Hall of Fames, but now you're in this one, and we're excited for
Cool.
you to be a part of our inaugural class. So
Well, thanks, man. I appreciate it. That's awesome.
Yeah,
I appreciate everything you do for our sport. You know, you were a legend and you were a role model for a lot of people, and you're continuing to lead that way in our sport and everything that we're doing. The All-Star you've been a part of for 2 years, and just everything you've done for us. You know, we appreciate you.
No, thank you. I got a lot of help along the way, and most of all from my dad right there in the middle of the screen. And he's pretty humble, but he was a badass, and he taught me a lot, and I wouldn't be here if it wasn't for him.
well, that's a perfect opportunity. So we get to honor Fred, you as well, for being part of his journey here. So thank you, Fred, for your part in his journey and helping raise him and set him on the right path. And John, congratulations. You know, you really deserve it. So
Thank you. Appreciate it.
awesome.
Well,
Any parting words? Mike, you got anything else to add?
Yeah, when you said you were going to put the graphic up on the screen, I thought it was going to be a picture of me with a microphone with a circle and a slash through it, but apparently it wasn't. So thanks for that. You know, honestly, I wasn't trying to steal the show, but it just seemed like I couldn't stop myself. It just kept flowing out of my mouth as I'm talking about Fred, this Hall of Fame coach that I got to follow, and then it just kind of I blurted out. I really, really apologize, but not really.
Hey, it's appropriate. It came out of a gopher's mouth instead of a husker's mouth.
There you go. Oh yeah, that's actually way better.
There you go. Yeah,
Yeah.
it was meant to be.
We didn't even talk about the year that, no, I did. 91, we're at Penn State. I should have bitterness towards Penn State too.
Yeah.
They finished third. Remember that, Dad? Penn State finished third. We were fourth by 1/10. We missed team finals by 1/10, and we lost nationals by 1/10 to your two teams. And why am I being nice at this moment? This is like brutal, man.
I can leave it recording, and Tony and I can step out if you guys like to kind of get it out of your system.
Oh, thanks.
Well,
Hey, Fred, really good to see you back there. Last time I saw you was at your 80th birthday party when we all froze our ass off sliding down your big toboggan hill up back in River Falls. So good to see you. You look great, and I heard you're pretty much neighbors to John. That's crazy.
Yeah.
I hope you keep him in line. You know, you got to keep a good eye on that guy.
Yeah, he does pretty good.
Yes, he does.
He doesn't need me anymore.
I'll always need you, Dad.
I need him now.
Yeah, Fred's he's still hunting, just in a different way. He's got his hunting dog down here. I'll tell you the story before we're done, because Fred likes this story. They took their hunting dog down to the water. There's water in our neighborhood, and there's an area for the dog to run around. And there's two raccoons that were living in the pool house down by the water. Well, let's just say there's one raccoon now living by the pool house down by the water, because my dad's dog got a hold of one, sent it to the promised land, and proceeded to keep it in its mouth and trot the 3 blocks through the neighborhood by itself ahead of them all the way back to their house. Like, we're in just a regular, normal bunch of houses next to each other neighborhood, and my dad's hunting dog, Avis, whacked a raccoon, carried it dead carcass through the neighborhood all the way home. So Fred's still, he's still getting some hunting in, just a little different, right, Dad, than it used to be?
Yeah.
Fred, I bet you were pretty proud, huh?
Oh, yeah.
Just not a skunk. There's skunks out here too.
Oh my God. You know that dog's name's not Cujo?
Yeah.
Oh my God.
All right, guys. Well, that's what we have for you. Thank you guys for joining the call. Thanks for the stories. Thanks for the dialogue, hearing you guys and making sure that the world can hear your story. And now, John, you're going to be part of this story forever. So thank you guys for joining.
Appreciate it.